Welcome back to the deep dive. It's great to have you with us again as we try to unpack some complex ideas,
Ah,
look at ancient wisdom, and see how it all connects to the very real stuff we deal with in our lives today.
exactly. The goal really is always to find those little nuggets, those surprising insights that can genuinely shift how we see things, maybe bring a bit more clarity, a bit more peace.
Yeah. And in our last deep dive, we talked a bit about beginnings, didn't we? How sometimes profound things can emerge from what feels like, utter chaos.
That quiet flicker of light in the darkness, that initial spark.
Right. So today we want to build on that. We're shifting our focus just slightly, moving from that first flash of light to maybe a deeper, perhaps more nuanced idea about how creation, how life keeps unfolding.
And it's a really interesting one today. We're exploring this idea of boundaries and space.
Which, we often think of as restrictions, don't we? Limitations, things that hold us back.
That's the usual take.
But what if that's not the whole story? What if boundaries, what if creating intentional space in our lives wasn't about deprivation at all?
What if it was actually life-giving? A pathway to maybe renewed purpose, to peace.
Exactly. That's kind of the mission for this deep dive, to explore that possibility.
And to help us think about this, we're turning again to that incredible ancient text, Genesis, specifically chapter 1, verses 6 through 8.
Yeah. And I just want to say up front, like we always try to do, this isn't about diving into ancient cosmology debates or, getting preachy or academic.
No, not at all.
Our interest here is really practical. Can we pull some wisdom from this foundational story, something that actually helps us today?
Because so many of us, I think, feel overwhelmed. We
Yeah.
need ways to create those essential spaces in our own lives, to find some clarity in all the clutter, maybe some breathing room in the constant rush.
It's an invitation, isn't it, for each of us listening to think about how this ancient narrative might actually speak to our modern experience.
It really is that feeling of being constantly flooded, information, demands, obligations, just the sheer noise of the world.
Yeah, overscheduled, always on,
Yeah.
pressed for time, for energy.
And this text, it kind of implicitly asks, doesn't it? Where do you find that quiet space for reflection, for renewal, just for being in a world that always demands doing?
So profound, yet so simple when you put it like that. Okay, so let's settle in. Let's hear this passage from Genesis.
And maybe as I read, if you're able, you could just close your eyes, take a breath, let the imagery wash over you. Don't analyze it just yet.
You just feel it. Let the words paint a picture.
Okay, I'll read Genesis 1.6 to 8, first from the NIV, the New International Version, and then I'll read it from the Message, which is a more contemporary paraphrase, gives a slightly different feel.
Great.
So from the NIV. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And now, from the Message. God spoke, "Separate water from water. Put a firmament between the waters." God made the firmament. He separated the water under the firmament from the water above the firmament, and there it was. God named the firmament sky. It was evening, it was morning day too.
Just take a moment with that. Let that imagery settle.
Yeah, that vastness, the
Right.
sky, that sense of separation, dividing the waters.
What does that evoke for you, just initially?
For me, it's a feeling of order, actually, like order emerging and spaciousness, where before there was just, chaos, undifferentiated stuff.
Yeah,
It feels almost like relief, like a space is being made ready for something.
it really does, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
quite striking. Because when we think creation, our minds often jump to, making something out of nothing.
Right, like light on day one, or
Right.
land appearing later, addition.
Absolutely. Exactly, bringing new things into existence. But what's so fascinating about day 2 here, Genesis 1.68,
Yeah.
is it's different.
It really stands out.
It's not about conjuring something new from the void. It's fundamentally about separation, about giving space,
Yeah.
about division.
And that, I think, that's where the real juice is for us today. That act of dividing, of separating. It's not shown as destructive.
No, not at all.
It's not tearing apart to diminish something. It's actually presented as creative, life-enabling.
Which really challenges how we usually think about creation, or even just progress.
Yeah.
Usually it's about adding more, accumulating, building up.
But here, the very act of setting a boundary, making a distinction, that's what creates the conditions for life, for thriving.
Think about it. Before this separation, it's described as formless. Just this undifferentiated mass of water.
A primordial flood, almost, which couldn't sustain complex life.
Right, it needed definition. organization. It needed space.
That separation allows for different things to exist, to have their own place, their own purpose. It's the essential first step before you can have distinct forms and functions.
Without that division, everything just stays blurred together, chaotic,
Yeah.
unable to support specific kinds of life.
It defines, it organizes, it establishes order. It pushes back against that overwhelming, blurred reality.
It's like before you plant a garden, you have to clear the ground, right?
Yeah.
But even more, you need to mark out where the beds are, where the path goes.
Exactly, where the veggies end and the lawn starts.
That definition, that boundary, allows something new and distinct to take shape. It brings order.
And when you connect that ancient idea, that sacred separation, to our own lives, especially around big life transitions, wow, it really resonates.
That could be incredibly comforting, actually.
It truly can, because we go through these major changes, don't we? Retirement after decades, switching careers completely, downsizing the house after the kids leave.
Shifts in big relationships, friendships ending, kids moving out.
And the immediate feeling, the very human feeling, is often that things are being torn apart. You feel the loss, the disruption, the emptiness.
Which is natural. You have to grieve what was, acknowledge the absence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what if we could also see it through this other lens, this Genesis lens?
Seeing those transitions, even the painful ones, as maybe profound acts of sacred separation.
Yes, like the divine blueprint playing out in our own small lives, echoing day two. These separations, even with the real sense of loss they bring, they are absolutely essential for making space.
Carving out new territory, a new landscape inside us.
Allowing new perspectives to come in, for a renewed sense of purpose to maybe take root, for possibilities we couldn't even imagine before to finally have room to breathe, to show up.
So reframing loss as making space.
Exactly. It changes everything emotionally, spiritually. It's not just absence, it's potential presence. It's clearing the ground, not for nothingness, but for something new, something beautiful, maybe something more aligned with who we really are now.
That uncomfortable void isn't emptiness. It's sacred space being cleared.
It's the precursor to new growth. If we can manage to lean into it instead of just resisting it or trying to fill it up immediately.
That reframing is just so vital. And I think it's maybe one of the most powerful things we can take from this text, because our instinct is always to fill the void, isn't it?
Oh, immediately. Distract ourselves, get busy, anything but sit in the space that separation creates.
But resisting that urge to immediately fill the emptiness, that might actually be the key. The key to letting something genuinely new emerge. I could definitely think of a time, a period in my life when everything just felt like a flood.
Overwhelmed.
Totally. I was juggling this really demanding job, had 2 young kids, a couple of volunteer things that had somehow ballooned. And honestly, I just felt perpetually on, Phone always buzzing, inbox overflowing, mind racing with lists even when I was supposed to be relaxing.
Like treading water in this huge ocean of tasks and expectations.
Exactly. And it wasn't just mental. It was physical, emotional. I was exhausted all the time, irritable. I found myself just scrolling endlessly on my phone in any spare moment. Not resting, just escaping.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Numbing out, almost.
And I remember really resisting doing anything about it.
Yeah.
There was this strong voice inside saying, you can't stop. You'll let people down. Everyone needs you. So much guilt tied up in even thinking about pulling back.
Shoulds.
Totally. But the truth was, I wasn't being effective. I was showing up everywhere, but not really present anywhere. I finally realized I desperately needed a separation, a boundary, a firmament in my own life.
So what did you do? What action did you take?
Well, the concrete action was actually physical, and it felt almost simple at the time. I cleared out this tiny, rarely used corner in our house, tucked away, put in a comfy chair, a reading lamp, and literally nothing else. And I designated it my no work, no phone, no demand zone.
Ah, physical separation, a defined space.
Exactly. A little separation from the waters of my daily life. A tiny space of above and below just for me.
And what was the impact?
Well, immediately, it was subtle, but profound. Just knowing that space existed, that I could go there for 10, 15 minutes and just breathe, that alone was transformative.
Like a little decompression chamber.
Yes. And over time, that small physical separation, it really translated into mental clarity. From that quiet space, I started to see where I could say no, where I needed to delegate, what actually mattered most.
It shifted your perspective from being reactive in the flood
to being maybe a more intentional architect of my own life. That small separation, it genuinely renewed my purpose. because it let me remember why I was doing everything instead of just being trapped in the what.
That's such a powerful story. And it perfectly mirrors this principle, doesn't it? Sacred separation.
It felt like it.
It really highlights that often the first step isn't adding more. It's thoughtfully, intentionally removing or separating what's overwhelming us, creating space for breath, for clarity.
Recognizing that maybe the chaos we feel is just a lack of defined boundaries.
Precisely. And it shows us something actionable too, right? That uncomfortable void left by change or by setting a boundary, it isn't emptiness, it's sacred space being cleared. Leaning into that, seeing it as creation, that's the key to new growth.
And that leads us right into our next theme, doesn't it? Boundaries that actually give life. Because what the text describes God doing on day 2, separating the waters, creating that expanse, that firmament,
Dividing the water above from the water below.
it's such a potent metaphor for our human need for healthy boundaries in our own lives.
Absolutely. Think about it physically. Without that sky, that firmament, the waters would just be this chaotic, undifferentiated mess. Life as we know it couldn't exist.
Right.
The firmament provides necessary division, it brings structure, support, it creates the very conditions for life to flourish.
And boundaries in our lives do the same thing.
In exactly the same way. They provide structure and support. They stop us from being constantly overwhelmed, constantly flooded by all the demands, expectations, information, even the emotional energy swirling around us.
That makes sense. And the spiritual importance of really defining this is above, this is below.
Yes. Discerning what's actually in our sphere of control, our influence, and what absolutely is not, that's crucial.
Because when we lack those clear boundaries,
We inevitably feel flooded by other people's emotional demands, by the constant pinging of our devices, by the endless work list, or even just feeling responsible for everyone else's happiness.
which leads to burnout, exhaustion.
Profound exhaustion. And resentment, too. A deep sense of resentment often builds up, and we lose our sense of personal agency. We feel like we're just reacting, being swept along.
Powerless, caught in the current.
But establishing those emotional firmaments, those internal boundaries, that creates a kind of sacred space inside. It protects our inner resources.
It lets us keep a sense of peace, even when things outside are chaotic.
Exactly. And it lets us focus our energy where it actually makes a difference, on things we can influence, people we can genuinely support, but within healthy limits, without totally depleting
So
ourselves.
it's not about building walls to keep people out.
Not at all. It's about building structures that sustain us so we can actually connect and contribute without burning out completely.
It sounds so simple, though, doesn't it? Just set boundaries. But in real life, with family or work, it can feel almost impossible sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. The theory is much easier than the practice.
What are some of the biggest hurdles people face when they try to set up these firmaments?
Well, one huge one is the fear of rejection
Yeah.
or disappointing people. We're often taught to be agreeable, to be nice.
Right. Setting a boundary feels like saying no, which triggers guilt, or anxiety about hurting feelings, using approval.
Exactly. Then there's the feeling of being selfish,
Yeah.
especially as we'll talk about in caregiving situations. Prioritizing your own needs can feel wrong, like it's against the idea of selfless love.
Mm-hmm.
And a third one, honestly, is just not knowing how. How do you actually say it? We feel the tension, but we lack the words, the practice to communicate a boundary clearly and kindly.
So we might hint, or get passive-aggressive, or just withdraw, which isn't healthy either.
None of those work well long term. So navigating that discomfort, first you have to recognize the flooding. That overwhelm, exhaustion, resentment, that's your signal. A boundary is needed.
Okay, listen to the internal signal.
Then start small. Don't try to fix everything at once. Pick one area where you feel most drained. Think about one tiny boundary, like maybe putting your phone away for the first hour of the day if digital noise is the issue.
Small steps, manageable.
And third, reframe your intention. Instead of I'm saying no to you, think I'm saying yes to my own capacity. Yes to showing up sustainably for myself and what matters. It's preservation, not limitation.
Boundaries aren't walls, they're foundations.
That's a great way to put it. Identify one area you feel flooded, time, energy, digital noise, and maybe try articulating one firmament statement for yourself this week.
That feels doable.
And this ties directly into something I've seen so often and experienced myself around caregiving. There's this incredibly powerful, almost primal drive to give everything when you're caring for someone you love.
A child, an aging parent, a partner.
You want to meet every need, answer every call, fix every problem. And initially, the idea of setting a boundary there, it feels deeply wrong, selfish, uncaring.
Like a betrayal, almost. How could you say no?
Exactly. But the reality, the challenge without boundaries is just heartbreaking. Caregivers burn out profoundly. They lose touch with themselves, their own health, their friends, their joys.
They become defined only by that role.
Completely. And their own needs get pushed aside, often to the point of real self-neglect, which isn't sustainable. I saw so many loving caregivers simply run out of fuel physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Making them less effective in the long run.
Less effective, less patient, less present. The very person they were trying to help often suffered indirectly because the caregiver was so depleted.
So what's the shift? How does the boundary help?
Well, what becomes clear, often through really hard experience, is that setting those boundaries isn't selfish. It's actually necessary. It's the only way to sustain the compassion, the energy, the ability to keep giving, loving care long term.
So it might mean saying, I'll be fully present during these hours, or I need help, or I need 2 hours this week just for me.
Yes, or consciously stepping away for short breaks, even when it feels wrong, asking for help from family. And when these boundaries are set and communicated with love and clarity, they paradoxically lead to more sustainable, more meaningful caregiving.
Because the caregiver isn't running on empty.
Exactly. They can show up more fully, more patiently, with genuine presence. They've built their own internal firmament, not to separate from love, but to protect their capacity to love.
That is such a critical lesson. Giving ourselves permission isn't limitation, it's preservation.
Protecting our capacity for connection, for compassion, for our own vitality.
Enabling us to give from fullness, not emptiness.
Precisely.
So let's just pause here for a second, and I want to invite you listening right now to maybe reflect personally on this. Thinking about these ideas of separation, of boundaries, where in your life do you feel flooded right now?
Is it a relationship? Work. Just the pace of things.
And what specific boundary, what separation, however small it might seem, what could give you just a little space?
Right.
Space to breathe, to think, to regain some peace.
Just let that question sit with you for a moment. No need for immediate answers.
Okay, now let's shift perspective again. From the separation of the waters, the text tells us God names that space, calls it sky or firmament.
And there's another really profound invitation here for us.
Because the sky, in Genesis, it isn't presented like a ceiling, is it? Like a solid lid holding us down.
No, it's described more like an expansive vault, a vast open space.
And that image, that metaphor, it speaks to possibility, doesn't it? To perspective, to lifting our gaze beyond just what's right in front of us.
Yes, it's a powerful invitation. To perspective, to rest, even to transcendence, getting beyond the immediate overwhelming stuff.
The text encourages us, almost literally, to lift our gaze.
Which is so countercultural today, isn't it? We're always looking down at screens, at to-do lists, at the ground level worries that just eat up our attention.
Caught in the weeds, micromanaging our days, our problems.
But the sky, its vastness, its stillness, it calls us to look up, to expand our view, to remember there's always more than just the immediate crisis or task.
And that lifting of gaze, how does that apply day to day?
It means consciously shifting focus, moving from only seeing the urgent tasks, the short-term stress, the things we think are limitations.
To embracing broader, longer-term perspectives.
Exactly. When you're stuck in the daily grind, it's so hard to see beyond the next deadline, the next email. Your world just shrinks.
But when you intentionally create space, when you actively look up, you start to see the bigger picture again, the whole landscape of your life.
Yes. The overall direction you're heading, the purpose that might be hidden by the daily flood. It's not about ignoring responsibilities. It's about gaining the clarity to handle them better.
And this connects so well to those times we feel stuck, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's later life visioning or feeling stuck in a career, a routine, even a relationship.
Absolutely. If all you see is the ceiling, the current limitations, it's almost impossible to imagine something different.
But that expanded view, gained by lifting your gaze, that can help rediscover purpose.
It really can. It might mean finally trying that hobby you never had time for, or nurturing relationships with more intention, or just finding real joy in a slower pace.
Recognizing the sky above isn't just empty space, it's potential, a canvas.
Precisely. And cultivating that sky-gazing mindset, it's a powerful antidote to the constant information overload, that feeling of being perpetually on.
Choosing perspective over pressure.
Deliberately. Disconnecting from the immediate demands to reconnect with something larger, more expansive. Inside us and beyond us, the actionable insight here might be when you feel overwhelmed, consciously step away from the ground level noise. Find something that naturally makes you lift your gaze. Maybe it's nature, art, music, deliberate silence, just to access that broader, calmer view.
That makes sense.
It reminds me of a woman I knew from a previous parish. Let's call her Eleanor. She had spent decades, truly decades, in really intense caregiving roles. First her elderly parents, then her husband, who had a very long illness. Her whole adult life was defined by duty, by others' needs, by the relentless schedule of appointments, routines, managing stress.
That sounds incredibly draining.
It was, and when that phase of her life finally ended, there was this huge void, a loss of structure. She actually said she felt like a bird without a nest, totally unmoored.
The sacred separation felt more like being adrift.
Initially, yes, not liberating at all. Now, Eleanor had always admired art, from a distance, museums, books, but she'd never tried it herself, thought she had no talent, no time.
Right.
So one day, kind of on a whim, feeling that deep emptiness, she signed up for a beginner's painting class at the local community center. Never held a brush before.
Brave step.
It really was. And what happened was just lovely. The act of painting, just seeing colors and light differently, creating something just for the joy of it, it opened up this whole new expanse for her.
The sky metaphor again.
Exactly. It wasn't about becoming famous or anything. It was the process. It was a tangible way for her to lift her gaze from the weight of her past duties. It gave her freedom, creativity she hadn't felt in decades.
It let a dormant part of her emerge.
A part that was just waiting for space. Eleanor's story, I think, it just beautifully shows how after creating space, even if it's uncomfortable at first, even if it comes from loss, totally new possibilities can unfold.
That sky, that vastness God created. It isn't just empty. It's a canvas for new life, new purpose, new joy.
It's a testament, really. When we bravely make space, we make room for beauty and meaning and rediscovery to show up in unexpected ways. We align ourselves with something bigger, more expansive.
What a beautiful image. And
Yeah.
such a powerful reminder. This whole conversation really underscores that Genesis 1.68, yeah, it's ancient, but it's so much more than just old cosmology.
It offers timeless wisdom for right now.
It's not just about sky and sea or some dry science lesson.
Yeah.
It's actually a really profound, compassionate guide for making breathing space in lives that feel so crowded, so chaotic, so overwhelming sometimes.
It teaches us that creation isn't only about bringing new things forth, but often about that courageous act of separating, defining, creating boundaries. It's like a quiet, reflective blessing, isn't it? About learning to breathe again after we've been through life's floods. A gentle reminder that creating boundaries, making space, physical space, mental space, emotional space, it's not an indulgence.
It's not a luxury.
No, it's essential. It's self-care, foundational for flourishing, for living fully with purpose. It's about protecting our capacity to actually engage with the one meaningfully, sustainably.
So as we kind of draw this to a close, let's maybe try to distill the core insights. 3 main takeaways for you, the listener, to maybe carry forward.
Okay.
First, that separation can be a sacred act, an act of creation, not just loss. Clearing the ground, making room, even when it feels uncomfortable.
Right. Second, boundaries are fundamentally life-giving. They give structure, peace. They protect us from overwhelm so we can thrive from a place of capacity.
And third, the sky. That powerful metaphor reminding us to regularly lift our eyes, look beyond the immediate worries to possibilities, to perspective, finding peace and renewed purpose there.
Those are great summaries.
But we really invite you to keep reflecting on this. Where in your own life might you intentionally create a bit more space? What old patterns, what expectations might need that sacred separation to make room for something new?
And what new beginnings, what unexpected possibilities might just emerge from that act, from setting a boundary, from lifting your gaze.
And as you carry these thoughts with you, maybe remember that intrinsic rhythm, the one established right there in Genesis.
There was evening and there was morning.
It's not just telling time, is it?
No, it feels like a universal pattern. It suggests that after the creation of space, after rest, after what feels like an ending, the evening of a phase, new beginnings inevitably follow.
The morning always comes.
Oh.
So by making space, by daring to define boundaries, by intentionally lifting your gaze, you're not just emptying your life or retreating.
No, you're actually aligning with a fundamental creative rhythm, one that promises renewal, new growth, fresh purpose.
You're participating in the ongoing act of creation right in your own life.
Beautifully put.
And speaking of new beginnings, in our next deep dive, we'll actually continue this journey through Genesis 1.
Yeah.
We'll look at verses 9 through 13.
Land and vegetation.
Exactly. how life really takes root and flourishes once that foundational space, that firmament, has been established and things are differentiated.
Looking forward to that.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.
Yes, thank you for listening.
If this conversation resonated with you at all, if it sparked something or offered a new perspective, maybe consider subscribing to the deep dive wherever you get your podcasts.
And leaving a review always helps others find the conversation.
Or just share this deep dive with a friend, someone you think might benefit from thinking about creating space and finding renewed purpose.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.